Hi, I'm Patrick Giguère with Cosmic Alchemist Astrology. And welcome to today's video. Today is New Year's Day, January 1st, 2022. And I'm back outside. It's a gorgeous day here in North Carolina. It was like 80 degrees at the height of the day, and it's coming up on 4 o'clock, so it's the last hour and a half of the day here, and it's still beautiful. So, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for all the support to this channel. And I appreciate all the views, likes, comments, shares. Thanks for doing all that stuff. And if you have not done so, then I encourage you to please consider doing so. So let's get into this month. It's been interesting. So my whole process with these videos, it takes me a while to do these. I'm not a reality TV guy or like a pitch man. I've got a Saturn retrograde in my 3rd house. It's tough for me to spit these out. It's because Saturn slows things down. 3rd house is communication and speaking and media, so it really slows me down, and my process takes a little while. So what I do is I get my thoughts together on the month or the year or the event or whatever I'm doing, and then when I feel good about my thoughts, I see what other people are saying, just to, just kind of an act of humility to see if I'm on the mark and to sort of do a gut test. And so I did that, like I usually do. And what I really disagreed with what I was seeing was just kind of the drama in the predictions. And I don't blame people for this. We've really been some people have literally been locked up for the last 2 years, and it sucks, and they're going crazy. And we all want all this foolishness to be over. We want the lockdowns to be over. We want the drug companies to stop puppeteering the government and the advisory boards like CDC and World Health Organization. And a lot of us want people to just stop panicking about a new flu that 99% of people survive. Most people never even get sick with. We just want to live our lives, and we don't want passports to have to go to the grocery store or a restaurant. We don't want people scaring us, telling us to not go see family for Christmas, and there's a lot of crazy shit going on. We all want this to be over. And, the astrology does have things in it that speak to reversals of what government has been doing. It has things in it that speak to, the deep state, the global elite, losing their grip on control. It has a lot of that stuff in it. But it's not going to be a high intensity transformation right now or even this year. So this is Saturday, this is New Year's Day. I'm probably going to make my video for 2022 on Monday. But what this month and what 2022 have in common is that they're going to be pretty low intensity. There'll be flashpoints around the world where people revolt and people get a little violent and people do crazy stuff, or the government cracks down. It's going to be very low intensity. It's going to be like a game of inches. And it's like, if you've ever, I don't know, I'm kind of a history nerd. If you look at World War I, where they had like the trench warfare, for like 4 years, people just sort of sat in the same opposite trenches, and they'd maybe go back and forth, maybe a couple miles at the most, but like when you're in a country the size of France, it's the size of Texas, so gaining a mile or losing a mile really isn't that much. It was kind of an ongoing stalemate, and there was a lot of low intensity activity. So that's kind of what this month is going to be like, and what this year is going to be like. There's going to be a lot of low intensity, and a lot of anticlimactic things are going to go on. Some big things will go on, but they're not going to change much, really. This year's going to feel like a hangover from 2020 and 2021. And the real fireworks don't start till you get into 2023 and then especially 2024, 2025, because then all the cycles of Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus, which drove American Revolution, American Civil War, and World War II, those cycles are going to start ramping things up, 2023 to 2025. So we have another one of these like low intensity, kind of anticlimactic, stalemate kind of years. So a lot of people are going to be waking up, a lot of people are going to be doubling down on what they already believe. And government, which is just being puppeteered by banks, which own the drug companies, government will be losing its grip. The media, which is owned by the drug companies and the banks, which tries to make government look good because government is doing what the drug companies and the big banks and major corporations want it to do. Media is going to have a hard time making government look good and getting people on board. People are really just sick of the last 2 years and the perpetuation of all the fear, which has been used to control them. And really, when you look at the positions of the nodes, Rahu and Ketu, the karmic nodes, we're back in 2003 where Iraq was invaded on this pretense of weapons of mass destruction. There was all this false intelligence that was cooked up by an organization called Office of Special Plans in the Pentagon. I had a little nobody job working there for a few months. I was a nobody. Wasn't really privy to anything, and but just being there, you could tell that they cooked the whole thing up. They admitted they cooked the whole thing up, and they were afraid of being prosecuted. So it was an out-and-out lie. And I got to know a lot of the people who cooked that. So we have, in 2020, there were weapons of mass destruction. And really, it was the results of a test. The Papa Romeo Charlie test. Papa Romeo Charlie test. Even CDC says that it's not reliable, it doesn't work, they need a new test. So the results of that test were the assumption that this whole 2 years were built on. So we're getting to that point where it's going to come out that there are no WMDs, that the test is bullshit, and that it doesn't work for the application that it's been used for to find this supposedly horrible, terrible virus. So that's something we're dealing with. Now, in 2003, and in the years forward, when it basically became public knowledge that there were no WMDs in Iraq, nothing really happened. Nothing happened to George Bush Jr., nothing happened to Dick Cheney, nothing happened to Donald Rumsfeld, nothing happened to Paul Wolfowitz, Doug Feith, was it Abraham Shilsky? Nothing happened to any of those people. So it's like, yeah, the revelation came out, but nothing happened. So we're going to see this here. A lot of the stuff will be coming out, but these people own the courts for the time being. So, yeah, not a whole lot's going to happen. I think getting towards 2030, I think there will be something like the Nuremberg trials that will be based on where this virus came from and the whole response to it and the medicines that were killing people and how doctors weren't allowed to use effective treatments. They were only allowed to use treatments that killed patients. There are going to be Nuremberg trials over this, but you're going to have to wait a hot minute. When you talk about World War II right now, you've got, and sort of that cycle of time, you're looking at the 84-year cycle of Uranus. So Uranus is now where it was in late 1937, early 1938. And the war was over in 45. And the Nuremberg trials weren't until 46, 47. So even if it's not, 1938 to what, 1946, that's 8 years. So you add 8 years to now, that's 2030 before the trials even get up and running. So you're gonna have to wait, and we have a whole interesting transformation to go through. So yeah, Donald Trump is not going to come back to rule at the right hand of Jesus this spring. It's not going to be that easy. So don't set that expectation, because you're going to go fucking crazy. All right. Now, bringing it back in, getting back to January. Again, low intensity. You're going to see something's going to happen. The media is going to get caught with its pants down. This month, the media is going to try to up the ante. It's going to try to scare us even more. To give you a little sneak preview. It's going to be Mars on the 11th of January. It's going to be looking at Neptune with its fourth aspect. So Mars is fire, aggression, enthusiasm, the will to dominate. It's going to be looking with its fourth aspect at Aquarius. And Mars is going to be at 26 degrees Scorpio. Neptune's going to be at 26 degrees Aquarius. So it's going to be a direct fourth aspect. So especially for the world, Aquarius is we the people, it's the masses of people, it's humanity. And then for America, Aquarius is the third house of media. So media is going to make another push to get even more manipulative, even crazier, even more deceitful. They're going to try to, they're already talking about the flu-rona, which is this mysterious merge of two viruses, and it's potentially even more horrible than anything we've seen yet. And have all these people in these pictures with biohazard suits. They're going to try some crazy shit, and they're going to get caught. Now, they're not going to get caught by the whole society and the court system, and you're not going to see prosecution right now and people getting convicted. They're going to get caught by a substantial percentage of the population. So the people who are already opposing the whole virus narrative, and they're not getting the injections, those people are going to dig their heels in deeper. People who've been on the fence are going to wake up, and then people who were believing are going to say, what the hell is this? So media is they're going to make a push to be even more deceptive and controlling and manipulative, and they're going to fail. So that's very encouraging, but like I said, it's not going to end the COVID show, not even close. But with that said, I think COVID's going to fade into the background, because government's going to have to do a lot of damage control to protect itself and to protect its corporate sponsors, aka deep state. Deep state is big business. So yeah, and in the end of this month onward, I think we could see Joe Biden's health giving way too, because by the end of the month, especially by like the 29th, 29th thereabouts of January, his transiting K2, the south node, will be, let me get this straight, I just want to pull his chart. It's going to be right on top of his natal sun, which is in his ascendant, which is, oh come on, phone password. But yeah, I think it's going to be right on top of his natal sun, and that can be tough when you're not in good health. That can take you out of this world, because the sun is your soul. K2 is an eclipse that frees you from this world. K2 is a planet of moksha, or liberation. Yeah. So yeah, Joe Biden's ascendant degree is it's like 22 degrees of Scorpio, but his Venus is at 5 degrees, his sun is at 4. So yeah, late January, early February, you can see his health turn way the hell down. Or media, his handlers will just tell media, his corporate handlers may just tell media to start telling people the obvious fact, the elephant in the room, that he's got severe, like, balls out dementia. So, one way or the other. You know, and that'll pave the way for Kamala Harris. But I think she's going to be a Daenerys Targaryen, you know, queen for a day. Something comes up, gets her out of there. It's going to be something weird happen. Get more specific about that on a later date. So yeah. So how are we doing on time? Not bad. Yeah, big thing for January. Government's going to get into a stalemate. Government's going to get bogged down. Governments everywhere are going to be opposed by their people. People are going to realize that government is not their friend. Government works for big banks, for drug companies especially in these times, and they're antagonistic and oppressive towards the people. So people are going to be fighting back. Stuff's going to be coming out in the media about, one, how corrupt the media is, how much the media has been lying, and how much the media has been covering up for government and their corporate masters. So government's going to have a hard time moving forward and getting anything done and really perpetuating more agendas. They'll still try to make people scared, but their forward progress is going to be severely hindered, especially because of the Mercury retrograde in Capricorn, sign of government. And the financial kind of resets and rebalances and sort of financial wake-up is something we're going to start dealing with. We're going to start dealing with how, yes, the world has been locked down and closed for 2 years, and hundreds of thousands of businesses have been lost, small businesses, and giant mega corporations like Amazon have been sucking up their market share. We're going to see what this means for regular people. You know, we're not just going to fixate on the Dow and the NASDAQ and talk about how wonderful the economy is. You know, media has been manipulating people, saying, well, the prices of food and gas are so high because the demand is so high, and just the economy is just doing that well. You know, it's a bunch of bullshit. We've got crazy inflation going on. I don't think it's going to go to like, it's going to go in this decade to like, you know, Weimar Republic inflation. And that was, Weimar Republic was the government after the German Empire was dissolved in 1919 after World War I. There was a republic in Germany. It was between the imperial government of the Kaiser and then, you know, the Third Reich. They had massive inflation because they were being manipulated and puppeteered. The Treasury was being manipulated and puppeteered by Wall Street and by banks in London. So they had hellish inflation, like people needed a wheelbarrow of cash to buy groceries. We're not going to see that, but things are going to have to readjust. So let's leave it there for summary. Let's go through a few days. I think it's just 9 days out of the month I'm going to go over. And that's going to be that. This will probably come out to, I don't know, 40 minutes or something. There's not a ton to talk about. There's stuff to talk about, but it's not going to be, like I said, it's going to be low intensity and it's going to be anticlimactic. It's just like a slow build. And it's going to be a year of slow build. And then the year after that might even start a little boring. So, you know, actually one last thing in summary here. I'm not going to be telling you I'm not going to be telling you anything you don't know. Everything I'm telling you here, pretty much everybody who's going to watch this is going to already understand it this way, but I'm basically giving a little outlook here and just showing you how it's written in the sky. So, yeah, I'm not not really pulling off any magic with this one. All right. So, specifics here. January 1st starts with the Kalasarpa Yoga. Starts the month and the year with the Kalasarpa Yoga. And a little tangent, I really don't like January 1st as the beginning of the year. I think it's arbitrary. Kind of the natural New Year's days in the world are November 1st, December 25th, and March the 22nd. So you got right after Halloween, you know, you got Samhain, which is when the sun's going towards Libra, it's the pivot point in the year after harvest, where the earth rests. So that's November 1st. That was the old New Year's Day in Europe. Then the December 25th is the rebirth of the sun, when, in our perspective, in the northern hemisphere, the sun from summer solstice to winter solstice goes south. It stays there for 3 days in the south, and then December 25th starts rising further and further north. So that you can look at that as a New Year's Day, and then March 22nd thereabout. That's why Skull and Bones have 322. That's where the sun crosses over the equator, and then the day is longer than the night. So that's the first day in the northern hemisphere that you have more light than darkness. So those are more natural New Year's days to me, but right now we can all agree on January 1st. So we start the month and we start the year with the Kalasarpa Yoga. So Kalasarpa Yoga, yoga means union. Kalasarpa means time serpent. And this particular serpent is Rahu and Ketu, which are the head and the tail of the dragon or the serpent. And you can keep time with them because they take 18 and a half years to make a full orbit. Now this Kalasarpa Yoga, this time serpent union, it's when all of the planets, except for the moon, are on one side of the axis. So they're all on one side of the chart. The moon moves so fast that it doesn't really count because it's just moves so quickly. So yeah, the moon will kind of go in and out. But otherwise, dealing with the rest of the planets, they will be on this one side of this axis, this karmic axis, till the end of April. So we have some months ahead of us that just feel really crazy and out of control, but not high intensity crazy, more of this low intensity crazy that we've been dealing with for the last 2 years, that we've been dealing with for really many years, especially since, end of World War II, we got a police state. But especially this low intensity crazy of the last 2 years, in the whole post 9/11 world, going to be more of that. But things are kind of foundational things are going to start shifting to bring about bigger changes in the future. January the 2nd, we have a new moon, 18 degrees of Sagittarius in the Purva Ashada nakshatra. So, if you're not familiar with Vedic astrology, Purva, the nakshatras are the lunar mansions. They're the 27 smaller constellations that make up the 12 signs. And they're all ruled by different planets, and they all have their own personalities. So, you get a new moon in Purva Ashada. Purva Ashada is in Sagittarius. It is the constellation of justice. Sagittarius deals with the truth. It also deals with the law, spirituality, religion, all that kind of stuff. Gurus, pilgrimages. But it deals with justice because Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, and Jupiter is basically the lawgiver, whereas Saturn is the law enforcer. So this is a full moon about a new moon about justice. New moons they're all about conception because it's the darkening of the moon. Conception happens in the dark. Whereas full moon, it's a full light of the sun, reflecting the full light of the sun. It's more about birth, when things come out into the light. So this deals a lot with justice, and justice is something people scream about, and you have these social justice warriors who, they're just as hateful and nasty and judgmental as anybody else, but they claim to be on the correct side, so everything they do is okay. So we have a lot of talk of justice going around. That's kind of bullshit, but this is more of a deep sense of justice, one based on natural law. It's based on your deep dignity, and it's like with the Declaration of Independence where it says, "We hold these truths to be self-evident: all men are created equal." The word "men" is a sticky word, and really the old use of the word "man" or "men," it was a genderless word. The word man, or mon, in Germanic and Indo-European Aryan languages, mon meant moon, man, and mind. So man was just human, or I should say, divine mind in human form. So it was a human being plugged into higher consciousness. It was genderless. In the old languages, they had different words for adult male and adult female. So, but, you know, it's been warped to, you know, support the whole, you know, the crusade against the patriarchy. And there were a lot of dickhead, oppressive men who have been in positions of power and influence for years. Can't dispute that. But anyway, it's getting back to the point. It's this deep sense of justice based on natural law that really the founding fathers of America were talking about. You know, and this is in America's ascendant house. So it's really going to hit home around the world, and especially for Americans, about, and this is going to be people, again, this is going to start slow, but it's people thinking about justice for everything that's gone on in the last 2 years, for doctors being hamstrung, not allowed to practice their medicine, for making doctors just, for one particular disease, doctors have just had to not use their skill and their creativity and their intuition and their insights and their intellects. They've just had to just do what the computer says. Oh, I can only give these drugs, I can only give these injections for this particular disease. Everybody knows what I'm talking about. And you know, there are drugs where you go into the hospital and you get these drugs. They basically shut your kidneys down, which your kidneys metabolize water, makes you drown on your own fluids. Makes your lungs fill with fluids. So people are going to start thinking about justice when it comes to tricking people into getting little children injected with experimental medicines that are not properly tested, not really legal. People are going to be thinking about justice and truth around all this stuff. January 8th, let's keep it moving. The Venus retrograde conjuncts the Sun, 24 degrees of Sagittarius. So this is a combust Venus. This is where when a planet conjuncts with the Sun and it's combust, it gets damaged, but it also receives the light and the energy of the soul. And the thing with the soul is that the soul can be very damaging to 3D reality, because the soul is just, it's an infinite, immortal being, and it doesn't entertain illusions, and it'll just destroy things that are not real. So this Venus retrograde, and you know, Venus retrograde is all about all the relationships in the world are up for review, whether it's people relating to people, people relating to groups, groups relating to each other, people relating to governments, people relating to organizations, anywhere where people are having some interaction. It's all about rethinking those interactions. So this highlights the way people around the world are being treated. Since it's America's, and so it's Sagittarius, so it's the truth for the whole world. Since it's America's ascendant house, this is really like, this is kind of like what's going on in the head of America as a collective. People are really going to start thinking, and they're going to be like, are these lockdowns that the government's telling me the right thing to do? Should I go get a free experimental injection because I can get a free burger and a milkshake? Should the government be telling me to do that? Like, am I being treated right by by the government, you know, city, state, or federal, or otherwise? That's going to be interesting, you know. People are going to be like, well, they're going to start thinking about these things, whether it's on a personal level or all the way up to the level of society. What's the other thing? And then I think, you know, it's gonna highlight truth about how sort of like the new segregation that's been going on, especially in places that have, you know, the COVID passports, because it's like going back to the old South in America, you know, before the civil rights era, where this type of people can come in this restaurant but not other people. They have to go to a different one, or they can't go to any of them. It's kind of getting that kind of stuff on people's minds, just how they're being treated. January 11th. Okay, talked about this a little bit. Mars' fourth aspect will be direct on Neptune and Aquarius. Mars is at 26 degrees of Scorpio on this day. Neptune is at 26 degrees of Aquarius. So Mars and Scorpio. Mars is at home. Scorpio is the sign of hidden secret things, hidden agendas, conspiracies, taboos, plots, the unconscious emotions. And, you know, Mars in Scorpio is ready to win at all costs. You know, Mars is at home in Aries and in Scorpio. Aries is kind of like captain of the football team, or like a typical soldier, like somebody who's really loud and out there and in your face. Scorpio is more like a ninja or like special forces or some sort of like intelligence operative. It's very quiet, it's disciplined, its power comes from within, it's sneaky, and it harnesses the power of the unconscious to pull things off. So it's ready to win at all costs. It's stronger and more disciplined and more mentally tough than that Aries warrior. So that is going to be looking at Neptune and Aquarius. Aquarius is the sign of we the people, of the masses, of society. For America, it's the third house of media. Neptune is media. Neptune is virtual realities and illusions, and when you watch news or some kind of broadcast, you're watching a virtual reality, you're watching an illusion. You don't get all of the sound. Let's say you're watching like a president or whatever make an appearance and make a speech. You can't hear up close. You only hear what comes through the microphones. You only see things from certain angles. And the camera can enhance people's appearances, and you're not seeing the whole picture. So this is the day where media makes this push to try to basically up the ante on the big lie to get us to believe things that are just not true. This could be a new push for the damn, what do they call it again? Flu-rona? Something like that. There could be, I think there's going to be some kind of news that, a new variant, it's so terrible, go back in your houses and don't come out till we say so, and wear 4 masks in your houses. This could be a real fear factor day getting pushed through media, but this can also be a day of people who are fed up with this shit getting very angry about it and not cooperating. Because Mars, anger and volatility, is shining on Aquarius, we the people, humanity. So that's the other thing too. People are going to be getting angry about the gaslighting. Now, Jupiter's also in Aquarius, so Jupiter's not the strongest right now because Mars owns Aquarius. Mars is in Capricorn. It's in its strongest home sign. So Jupiter's not all that strong, but it's trying to help us because Thor is Jupiter. Thor is a protector of humanity, just like Indra, any of those thunder gods. But yeah, media is going to try to pull some new fear campaigns, some new fear mongering. Some people are going to fall for it. Some people are going to push back against it. But I think media is going to go too far, and I think they're going to step in it, and I think they're going to get caught. And this may lay the foundation for some news of media corruption coming out and just how deceptive they've been. And in January 12th through the 18th, Mars will be Gandanta. So Mars on the 12th will reach the 28th degree of Scorpio. Gandanta are the three transition points in the zodiac where planets go from a water sign to a fire sign. So in this case, Scorpio is the water, Sagittarius is the fire. And you also have, what are the other ones? Pisces to Aries, Cancer to Leo. This basically, to me, at this point where the water sign meets the fire sign, it's like the water of the water sign boils. And water is emotion. So emotions expand, they can get out of control, they can blow up. And having Mars do this, it's that much more explosive. You can get rioting, stuff like that. You can get like earthquakes, hurricanes, crazy storms. So yeah, it'll be interesting, but I think definitely what we're going to get here, which doesn't take an astrologer to tell you this, is just outrage from people all around the world. And especially since it's going from Scorpio, deep unconscious emotions, to Sagittarius, the truth, knowledge. It's like it's going to take people's angry emotions into the house of the truth. So they're going to be angry about knowing what the truth really is. So that could be interesting. Then January 14th, Mercury goes retrograde, 16 degrees of Capricorn. And then the Sun will enter Capricorn on the same day. So Mercury retrograde is all about, because again, retrograde planets are not disasters. It's all about putting things up for review. It's like, don't take new things on. Review what you already have, fix it, correct it, do that kind of thing. So it's in Capricorn. This is government for the whole world, government and authority, public servants. Public servants who act like we work for them, even though we pay the damn salaries and their lodging and their transportation and their luxurious dinners. They're up for review. Now for America too, this is the second house of finance, money. So Mercury retrograde, 16 degrees of Capricorn. With the Sun in Capricorn, highlighting it, the sign even more, government is up for review. It'll start being called to account. It'll start, for all intents and purposes, in a whisper, but it'll keep building. Government will be called to account for being puppeteered by drug companies, by the big banks that own them, by the hedge funds that own them. And they'll be called to account for all of the manipulation of information and data and all that stuff that they have been doing to support their owners, who are the drug companies and the hedge funds that own the drug companies. The economy will also be up for review, especially for America, because it's, again, Capricorn's the second house, money and finance and resources. So it's like I said, I think all of these economic losses that have taken place in the last 2 years will start to be acknowledged by the mainstream. The news just lying about how great the economy is doing right now, just because they're darling Joe Biden's the president. That stuff's going to start falling apart. We're going to have to start looking at how the economy is really doing. Things are going to have to be corrected. They're going to have to start looking into, okay, how do we ease the pain in people's wallets, just regular people who are suffering from higher food prices and fuel prices, and their workplaces aren't generating the money they used to. We have to start dealing with this stuff. We can't just get all googly about the stock market. Yeah, an interesting thing too is that all three of the Mercury retrogrades in 2022 will all be in Earth signs. So Capricorn, Virgo, and Taurus. I think, the order will be Capricorn, Taurus, Virgo. But all Earth signs. Earth deals with It deals with your crops, your harvest. So for most of us, our harvest is money. That's what we go out and, tend to and grow and harvest every day. So it's going to put the way we deal with money up for review. It's like I always tell people, I'm like, Mom and Dad's world is done. And we're going to have to build a new world, especially financially. And that's going to take some time until that's all said and done. It's going to be like another 20 years, but rebuilding is going to start very soon. January 16th, what do we got? Sun conjunct Pluto, 2 degrees Capricorn. This is going to bring a lot of control issues to light on behalf of government, on behalf of deep state that runs the government. Again, deep state, it's just the big corporations and the mega banks and the hedge funds that own all of it. It's all financial and commercial interests. That's deep state, and they just have loyal people within governments. Nothing really, mysterious or mystical about it. So, yeah, because again, Capricorn being the sign of government, Pluto is transformation, Pluto is also control. So, having the Sun, which is authority, royals, executive figures, conjunct Pluto, you're going to see you're going to see the government puppets of the deep state. They're going to try to cling to power, and they're losing it. People have been waking up for years, and they're losing power, and they don't want to. And their corporate controllers don't want them to lose power, but it's just the way it is. So, as they get more controlling, people are going to get more rebellious. You're going to see more revolts, rebellions, civil disobedience. And this is encouraging because people need to find their balls. Males, females, everybody. So many, especially being a man, being a male and seeing so many macho men. It's like, where are you guys? Like, you're just going with this shit? It's like, you might have to put your granite countertops at risk in order to save the futures of your children and grandchildren. And this is going to start dawning on these people. Like I said, men and women, male and females. They're going to start pushing back against this control. Finally. So that'll be good. So again with this, it's not just government, but it's the banks and the corporations that own the government, that own the politicians. They're going to be controlling too. So it's like you're going to see even companies just doing wild, control freakish things. People could be upping the ante on more injection mandates for their employees or even their customers. Can't come in here without your passport. But people are going to start pushing back. And that's going to be very encouraging. All right, January 17th, full moon, 3 degrees of Cancer in the nakshatra of Pushya. So this is Cancer for the world. It's like your sustenance. It's like your mother. When you're a child, your mother feeds you. So it deals with your sustenance, deals with food, deals with a sense of security. Also deals with freedom. Cancer deals with all that stuff. And so it's about, again, full moons are like a birth, like a sense of birth, something being birthed. So there'll be a light shine on all those topics. And then Pushya, the nakshatra, deals with like gurus and teachers, who kind of care for people. They don't just like bloviate and talk at people, but they really try to care for the people they're teaching. So, and an interesting thing too about this full moon is that it's almost directly opposed to Pluto. So, Cancer, Moon will be at 3 degrees of Cancer. Pluto is going to be 2 degrees and change of Capricorn. So opposite sign, but within a, within the same degree. Just, it's going to be looking at it from an opposite sign, almost on the same degree. So this could highlight, because Cancer deals with nourishment and food, this could deal with how big companies, Capricorn, again, Capricorn being second house of finance and money for America, could deal with how the powers that be, the deep state, hedge funds, banks, mega corporations, their leaders, have been causing food shortages, supply shortages, in order to just scare people, keep people on edge, and keep people under control through fear. So this is something we could see here. An interesting thing too for America, Cancer's the 8th house of plots, scandals, conspiracies. So could be a day for some of that information to come to light. I'm not going to hold my breath. This stuff usually takes time and it doesn't happen right on the day. And then too for America, Cancer being the 8th house. 8th house deals with like institutional money. 2nd house is like the money you make on your own. 8th house is like insurance, banks, all that kind of thing. So could be a day of sort of like financial manipulation coming to light too. But again, finance owns the drug companies, owns the food companies, the hedge funds own them, so stands to reason. January 18th, Uranus ends its retrograde, stations, goes direct, 16 degrees of Aries. So this is where Uranus was again in 1937, end of 1937. So we're getting into World War II territory here. So World War II, when it broke out, Uranus is in the last degrees of Aries, and then it went into Taurus. So it's that cusp area where the breakout of the war happened. So we're in about 1937 right now, and in the Third Reich, there was a lot of control freaking going on. Society was really getting clamped down on, and a lot of micromanagement, just government control happening. So yeah, Uranus is in Aries, a sign of leadership. So leadership for the world. So in that time period, World War II, it's like leadership as we knew it in the world was just being turned on its head and just rocked. And this is going to happen again. And then too, for America, Aries is the 5th house of politics. So the 5th house deals with art, performance, writing, acting. And politics is a performance art, just like acting or any of that stuff. So that stuff is going to be rocking and rolling. And it's contributing to this whole thing, this idea that I'm talking about of how government and politicians are going to be on their heels, because they're more and more are going to start getting their hands caught in the cookie jars. And it's going to come to light that they were owned by the drug companies and the banks behind them. And they were puppets for them. January 23rd, that retrograde Mercury will conjunct Sun, 9 degrees Capricorn. Bigger spotlight on government. So Mercury, intellect, it's reviewing things, it's reviewing government. Conjunct Sun, it receives that full light of the soul. It gets Mercury doesn't really get combust because it lives near the sun anyway. It can deal with the heat, but it's gonna have the full light of the soul. So big spotlight on government. Government's gonna have difficulty functioning because people are gonna be at odds. Alliances are gonna break, and it's not so much that they're gonna be fighting to save us. They're gonna be fighting to save themselves from possibly going to jail. So look at government around this time just really being stopped dead in its tracks, not being credible, people not seeing it as being credible, and it's very encouraging in my opinion. And again, since it's the 2nd house for America, the whole business leaders and the financial world gets brought into this. People in officialdom are going to look not very credible. They're going to be seen for more of who they are and how they've been. All the deception and manipulation that they've been perpetrating. So, encouraging times in my opinion. And then, how are we doing? Ooh, 50 minutes, longer than I thought. Last one, January 29th, the Mercury retrograde conjuncts Pluto. 2 degrees of Capricorn, and on the same day Venus goes direct, 16 degrees of Sagittarius. So, Venus is like a protector and like a warrior. Venus brings peace, but it's not just through like rainbows and unicorns and like little puppy dogs. Venus will fight in order to bring peace. It's kind of one of the misconceptions about Venus. That 5-pointed, especially in America, that 5-pointed star that's all over military equipment and military uniforms, that's the star for Venus because the point is up. So Venus will fight in order to protect and to bring about peace or restore peace. So Venus going direct in Sagittarius, that'll be like fighting for the truth. And then the Mercury retrograde conjunct Pluto, that's going to shed light, because it's in Capricorn, sign of government, on all of the government manipulation and then the business manipulation behind the government. Because again, big business owns government. They are the deep state. So that's an interesting day with the Mercury retrograde conjunct Pluto in Capricorn, sign of government. And then with Venus going direct in Sagittarius, sign of truth and higher knowledge. So, very fated sort of a day where you have both of these alignments happening. Well, this stationing going direct for Venus, and then this conjunction between Mercury retrograde and Pluto. So, yeah, this is really going to be a day of cutting through the manipulation and the control and seeing what the truth is in order to bring back peace and harmony and just enjoyment of life. Venus is all about enjoyment of life, enjoyment of the 3D, of sensual pleasures, of just art and music and creativity and romance and all that stuff. So this is a day of people wanting to really get back to enjoying their lives like they did 2 years ago and before that. Not having a bunch of fun Nazis trying to stop them. And the other thing too, like I mentioned earlier, last big point, on this day K2 is at 4 degrees of Scorpio. So this is K2 on the degree of Joe Biden's natal sun, and the sun is in his first house. So, like I said, if you're watching this, his health is the weakest link. There's a lot of rumors about how he shit his pants during his meeting with the Pope last year. You just watch the guy with an open mind and being honest with yourself. He's got some pretty wicked dementia. So he's either going to be deemed unfit for office, or he's going to leave this world due to health problems. And I don't wish health problems or death on anybody, but health is the guy's weakest link. When you have your K2 transit over your natal sun, it's like the weakest link in your life will go. And if it's your health, then, it can happen. So, yeah, he's not very long for this earth. And like I said, Kamala Harris, she's the real Daenerys Targaryen. She'll be queen for a day, and we'll see what happens after that. But that's it. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll talk to you soon. And have a good one.